Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and video game news. Today is Monday, June 5th. I'm just going to say right up front that I spent all last night feeling sick. Probably an 8 out of 10, with 10 being the most sickness I could imagine I could ever feel before dying. And now I feel like I'm at a 4, so it has gotten better, but I just am not at 100%. I'd probably have missed some logins here. If today's the 5th, we've already missed 2 login days. And that means I probably missed 2 Duel Lives days too. Yeah, it's just not really worth my time half the time to remember to come back and log in every single day. So I'm expecting to do very little Yu-Gi-Oh! Today and just cover the news fairly quickly, and then I want to just kind of be done with today, just because I'm not feeling the best at the moment. This is probably a good point though for this to happen, if there ever is a good point to be sick, in that I really don't have a lot to do on Yu-Gi-Oh! Anyways. We're just playing this new deck and theoretically trying to get up levels, up to platinum on the rank. And yeah, just doing the daily quest on top of that. I do think I successfully rewrote my macro code, so it was maybe a little bit slower because I've added some extra delays, but it did actually run today. I also did some preliminary testing on even adding the SteamDB charts as far as what the top 100 players are for the past day would be. My general idea there, and what's really tripping me up more than anything, is just figuring out how to get a macro to get the data into a Google Sheets Excel sheet, and then how to manipulate the data points at that point into what I assume would be a timeline chart. And so I just need to do some more testing on that aspect and see if I can get that to really work. Did I do anything else over the weekend? I think it mostly was just playing Indiana Jones and Emperor's Tomb, which I'm still making progress on that, but it is going a little bit slower as I approach it, the halfway point, or a little bit further than the halfway point, and the game is getting noticeably worse the deeper you get in. They hid all the good content, I think. I think they hid all the bad content and put their best foot forward. Let's see what this does. Go ahead and activate all of these. Activate this. See if this works for me. Yeah. There's really not a lot to say about Indiana Jones and Emperor's Tomb other than there are some sections that are fairly obviously like either made by different teams or just made in a very, very different fashion. They're particularly when you get to a Chinese castle section in the game, you start to see different enemies that have completely different types of weapons, and once you've crossed that point, you go from a game that is a early second generation 3D platformer Tomb Raider ripoff to something that is dangerously getting closer to a like GoldenEye 64 clone, in that you're really, really focused on having a variety of weapons and running around shooting people. And then most recently I had a boss fight between two Chinese triad ladies who punched and karate me way too hard. And that is a growing problem certainly too, is that you're running into these karate people that can stun lock you effectively, and they'll do 3 or 4 hits on you before you really would have an opportunity to hit back. I'm not sure if maybe I have to like tap the black button and try and counter like a fighting game, but I definitely have not been using the block button, and I haven't been doing well. I think it's in particular just probably because I'm playing on normal and you can't really get to easy, even though it seems like you could change the difficulty from the main menu. I bet you're not really changing the difficulty, and playing on normal mode would certainly also explain why there's usually 4 or 5 crates that are completely empty for every 1 crate you find that to break open that has 1 single pickup. Of course, even if all the crates were giving you pickups, that would just fix the problem of always being low on bullets. It doesn't fix the problem of the Indiana Jones game just not really feeling like an Indiana Jones game, particularly considering Fate of Atlantis. There's just a lot more dialogue in Indiana Jones movies than I think people remember, and so there is a pretty big gap between what people nostalgically remember the Last Crusade, Temple of Doom, and Ark of the Covenant were like versus what they were really like. People just remember the action sequences, so if somebody were to really explain any Indiana Jones movie, it would be about 20 minutes worth of content that they actually remember. And that highlights in a lot of ways where pacing is really important, and in general I just don't feel like pacing has as much of a focus when you're developing a video game, and video game developers have just never gotten good enough about thinking about pacing and how that might differ when you're doing a 60-hour video game versus a 2-hour movie. But certainly I would say modern games do touch upon falling action and rising action a lot more often and do a much better job at it. Whereas Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb literally goes from platforming section to fighting section to platforming section to fighting section. There's never really a falling action sequence. Indiana Jones has been alone completely for all but maybe 5 minutes in total of the game, so he hasn't had any opportunity to talk to anyone or show off how smart he is. There's not really puzzles in the game to a significant amount. There's one puzzle certainly, but nah, that's pretty much it. Like you get, after the actual puzzle in the game, which was in about the second level, you get in the third level a point where you have to just collect 4 keys and put them in the right keyhole. So if you want to say figuring out which keyhole is the right keyhole for the keys is a puzzle, then technically yes, but by most people's definition it really wouldn't be a puzzle. And it was definitely more puzzly to fight the boss in the third level than it was to open that door. Yeah, and I just don't think I really have anything more to say about Indiana Jones, so let's just start going through the news fairly quickly. A longtime Halo designer, David Ellis, has departed 343 Industries. Ellis has been with Halo since 2010 and worked on each of the 343 Industries mainline entries in the series. So that's another talented person leaving the remnants of 343. But in all fairness, Bungie was the company that was actually making the Halo games, so he would have had to have left Bungie at some point and joined 343. One interesting just milestone to notice is to mention about Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, though, is the fact that since it came out in 2003, well, the Google search website really didn't launch. It had like a kind of beta version, but what would be recognizable as Google didn't come out until 2004. So that is old. Like, and I guess the real question I should ask myself is, at what point do I feel like the internet specifically yeah, at what point do I feel like the internet specifically became the internet we know today? And I think it probably would be somewhere around the time of Google being a thing. Like, sure, we had Yahoo and AltaVista, and, well, maybe not AltaVista, but there was several other sites that were kind of like web rings, but until you started to have a much broader mass adoption. Now I would say that sites like Newegg in particular may have played a much bigger role than you would think, just bringing the idea of shopping online to existence pre-Amazon.com. Amazon.com changing the game for book sales originally online. WordPress in general playing a big role, allowing a lot of people to have websites, and as more and more people kind of could have a democratized website. Well, this looks like this is going to work very well. Their own little website to have that allowed for a very wider uh, style internet to exist before the current internet, which is mostly just the top 5 websites. Gmail certainly played a big role too. A significant portion of normal people would never have used the internet or embraced the internet if it weren't for the fact that they needed an email or that they saw an advantage in having an email. Right. So this guy basically didn't play his first turn. And now he's probably going to sorely regret it. But it's not going to be a one-turn kill. Yeah. Once you started to get to the point where it made sense to a few times a week log on to the internet and check your email or go to certain websites, something that might post something once a week, that's when it became more of a commonplace thing. Whereas up until that point, the internet speeds were just so slow that you would have to be working on some kind of paper or something, some kind of research to justify going on the internet. And yeah, I guess I definitely can say Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb does not have any internet connectivity functions, and I don't know what it really would have other than just the default thought of multiplayer. I don't even know what other characters should play as. It is a little crazy to say that the last 20 years have been the 20 years that mattered for the internet, but for most people that is true. Of course, the first 10 years of the internet's development would have been really technologically the things that mattered. See, and even at this, I really want to finish early, so we've only been going 17 minutes, but if you told me we've done all the daily quests, ritual, synchro, something, alright, and we've got a lifetime quest. Is this a lifetime secret quest? No. It's just a lifetime quest, but they are seemingly putting finished quests at the top. As far as lifetime quests, yeah, just slowly making progress on some, and about halfway here through some after over a year of playing. I guess gaining life points. If I played a deck that gained life points, I'd get this done fairly quickly. Or dealing over 8,000 life point damage. If I played a deck that did that would be done fairly quickly too. I could probably make special decks just built around those concepts, but I don't know if I really would care to. The PC gaming show is having a event June 11th, 10 p.m. Central Eastern Time. I think maybe the Summer Games Fest is happening either right about now or in a few hours. But I probably won't have any. I won't have any news today about any of that, so yeah. It does seem like we are heading into what would have been E3 time, and we're probably going to get a decent amount of notifications and announcements, but I don't know if they won't just be announcements for games for a year or two from now. I guess I've been missing out on some shift codes here, because this is the first Borderlands tweet I've seen in a long time, and that was an hour ago. And you can see them retweeting Randy Pitchford, which honestly I may have muted Randy Pitchford. Let's see. And they're doing their whole pride thing, although on that aspect I would have to heavily question which of the characters in Borderlands would be LGBTQ+, and which of those characters, since they are all crazy psychopaths, would be a positive representation of anyone who's LGBTQ+. For the most part, we'll start here and just say we'll assume no gender for the little girl. And I think the story has probably done that fairly well. And then generally, I think maybe this girl is a lesbian, way in the back. She had like 5 husbands, so just a general psycho, handsome Jack. Maybe she's a lesbian. Was that girl? Maybe this guy's gay. Like, I could really say maybe on 2 or 3 of them, but that's pretty much it. And in fact, half of these characters I can't even recognize. And that's kind of the problem with this whole Pride Month thing in the first place, is that if you really start to try and hold these companies' feet to the fire, the lip service they play on June 1st does not really fall through to any narrative or creative decisions, as you are creating imaginary characters that very easily could be LGBTQ+ if you wanted to write them well that way. I know there is at least one decently written gay person in the massive series that is Borderlands, but since that's pretty much the only thing that they have done or made, there's really no other games for them to hang their hat on in that aspect. And you certainly both can't blame them for the terrible situation you'd run into when you started looking at like Duke Nukem, even though they technically do own Duke Nukem. They didn't really create Duke Nukem, although they did bend over backwards to acquire it. One of the post-mortem claims that I saw was that nearly 75% of all of the hired staff for Redfall left the company, turned over in one way or the other. They were either fired because that Redfall was not announced, so they were hiring people at Arcane Austin, I believe it is. It was definitely an Arcane studio in Texas. So they were hiring people who thought they were going to work at Arcane and make something like Prey or Prey Mooncrash, and then they were being told to make something very, very different in the form of what Redfall was being pitched as. On top of that, there's a postmortem video I saw that said they were having severe trouble with getting people to move to Austin and work in Texas in general, which, yeah, that situation certainly has not improved much in the recent years. There are still plenty of reasons why more liberal game developers who are mostly from California or want to live in California and definitely have that California liberal mentality may not want to go to even a fairly liberal city in Texas, but still be inside a state that is fairly conservative. Yeah, as we're talking about Pride Month, I believe I just saw Texas banning gender affirming care for underage people, being the first state in the United States to do that. So, yeah. Definitely sounds like it was a nightmare, if this story is true. I really don't have a lot of reason to not believe it. The thing here is I need to link and ritual summon, and I just don't know if I can really do that. And at a certain level, I should probably just go back to playing Zodiac Tri-Brigade, but I really do want to try and stick with this new Tier Laments deck. I don't really know if it's better, though. Dead Cells has topped 10 million sales worldwide. They also have commitment for a couple of DLC things. Got more Dead Cells DLC planned as the game tops 10 million sales. Yep. Let's go and do this. Cancel that. And then activate this. Suffice it to say, I didn't sleep much last night either, so I'm yawning over here. Apparently somebody has already hit the level 100 cap in Diablo 4. The game was released today, but early access started 4 days ago. Really the only reason they took that long was that there was a game-breaking bug that stopped progress and deleted the save files of some of the people. From what I hear. There is also like $100 horse armor in Diablo 4. And this is the point now that the game is actually coming out for regular people to see, that we're going to start to see the nonsense in the marketplace, I imagine, if such a thing really does exist. Okay. This will bring back a trap. This will bring back a trap. This will be a trap. So sending any of those spells would bring back a trap. If a trap had been banished, I should have sent the other card that would have brought a trap from my hand. Alright. So yeah, it'll take a little bit more time, but I think we're going to start potentially seeing more. Sorry, I'm yawning. I really need to wrap up this stream. I think this will be our last. I mean, it's early, I know, but yep. I think this really will be our last game for today. I'm getting distracted. Yeah, unless I could just really turn this around. So I also wanted to just question and hold a company's foot to the fire here. Here we have Rocksteady with their new pride flag and hashtag Black Lives Matter too. I guess that's just permanently there. Hashtag pride. And they make the claim that pride is in their foundation. So we can't really do a major deep dive in what kind of environment their hiring conditions are and how they treat real people in the real world. But I do suspect that if we were to do a deep dive on any video game company, you would find that there are definitely minorities who are underrepresented. But we can, as a game consumer, see the kind of products that they actually do sell to us. So, in the case of Rocksteady, we have Urban Chaos Riot Response, which I've never played, so I have no idea about. Then we have Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, which I have played. And then I haven't played Arkham Knight, which was just a terrible game. Arkham Asylum VR, I would never play. And then you have Suicide Squad, Killed the Justice League. And I definitely have to question, in which of these games is there any representation at all going on? Like, not headcanon, sure. We can all headcanon that in Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Harley Quinn is the Harley Quinn that is actually secretly dating Poison Ivy. I don't think this guy's ability is going to work. Yeah. Well, that worked. And yes, I guess maybe there is some Batman character in one of the games that maybe, but not really. I mean, you really would just be getting back to Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. I don't think Batwoman shows up in any of the Arkham City, Arkham Asylum games. I don't think any of the bad guys are LGBTQ+. And particularly for like Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, there really aren't any bad girls at all, so that it's failing just on gender representation, let alone other minorities. Okay, here, since we're on Wikipedia, let me just scroll up. I didn't even read this part. Allegations of misconduct. The Guardian reported in August 22 the studio had failed to address issues of sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior that more than half of the female employees had written to the studio executives about in a November 2018 letter. Such actions include slurs regarding the transgender community, discussing a woman in derogatory or sexual manner with other colleagues, and sexual harassment in the form of unwanted advancing, leering at all parts of the woman's body, and inappropriate comments in the office. Rocksteady said to The Guardian in 2018, we received a letter from some of our female employees expressing concerns they had at the time. We immediately took measures to address the matters that were raised over the subsequent 2 years. We carefully listened and learned from our employees, working to ensure every person on our team feels supported. In 2022, in 2020, we are more passionate than ever to continue developing an inclusive culture, and we determined to stand up for all of our staff. The following day, a letter signed by the current female employees of the company was released, to say they did not agree with the Guardian article, and they hadn't been consulted, nor did they agree with the allegations spoken of on their behalf. Which, when you have a letter signed by all current female employees, that seems very much forced by a company. You couldn't get all male employees at any company to willingly sign a letter. But it does certainly point to a point here. Pride is in your foundation. Doesn't sound like it's been there the whole time. Maybe this is the new leaf that they're turning over, certainly. Since they mostly are making Batman characters, I think like Batwoman may be gay. And that's about it as far as Batman heroes. But comics in general have been exclusively heteronormative to the extreme. And yeah, you could make some arguments. Darn it, I really do need to play one more time, don't I? You could definitely make some arguments that maybe some of the more monstrous characters, like Clayface, might fall into a transgender category if you wanted to go that route, but they probably don't. Moving on, Blaseball, which I feel like I've heard this name, but I don't know if I've ever actually seen the game, is going to be shut down after layoffs at the developer of the game band. The studio explained that supporting Blaseball is no longer sustainable. Jeff Keighley has come out and said that E3 killed itself, not competition from the Summer Game Fest. I would fully agree with that. E3 has only themselves to blame. Here's the Summer Game Fest schedule and guide. See, Wednesday the 7th at 9 a.m. Pacific time is Guerrilla Collective. And then seems like it really starts off on the 8th at noon Pacific time. Then it seems like it goes off being a much longer presentation over the course of quite a few days. Yeah. This definitely does not feel like what the Summer Games Fest last year was. It feels very much more like every single thing that would have been at E3 jumped ship to the Summer Games Fest. And if anything, this is perhaps in a very negative way reshaping the Summer Games Fest to be too much like E3, where I can already tell you that there's just too many events here that a lot of people are going to opt to not watch. Like, generally speaking here, somebody may watch the opening showcase and then maybe the developer direct and then skip down to the Xbox showcase and maybe the PC gaming show and then skip to Ubisoft and then maybe you get back to the Xbox game showcase extended. But I think you skip a significant number of these events, particularly since we're only getting small bits at best of information as far as what would be announced at each one of these events. I guess I'm probably in part confusing the Video Game Awards with the Summer Game Fest, but in my mind I really do think that the Summer Games Fest was much closer to similar, or the Video Game Awards in similarity and length. And that probably is the length I would want. It's just one big show. Perhaps the Video Game Awards is maybe a little too short, or doesn't cover quite enough games, but maybe something 2 or 3 times as long as a Video Game Awards presentation in length at most. Whereas I don't want a whole week of announcements. It's particularly bad time to be making announcements around games anyways, as the games that have come out recently are just not good. Grasshopper Manufacturer says something's going to happen on June 15th. This is the company that makes No More Heroes, and I'm not sure I can name anything else that they've ever made. And I don't think they really want to make any more No More Heroes games for a while, at least. So, whatever they announce, I imagine will be some new side game, or some kind of side game that I wouldn't be able to guess. Xbox is saying that none of its first-party showcase trailers will be full CG, which, okay, yay. So you're going to get at least one frame of in-game or in-engine renderings, unless what they really mean here is that there will be some live-action footage for every single first-party showcase trailer, which that would be very weird if that's what they meant, because then they're saying that every single game they have is going to have some like live-action full-motion video in it. Yeah. None of it will consist entirely of computer-generated footage. Which, that's just a terrible way to phrase that. You should either use the phrase pre-rendered, or you should use the phrase cutscene. Yeah. Well, at least partially be in-engine is what they're trying to say. It really is just a terrible way to explain that. So, here we have the beginning of what I could only assume is some weaseling out in the face of Capcom, in that Capcom wants to know which Resident Evil remake fans want next. A company survey is quizzing fans on the future of the series. Which, yep. I can only assume that they are hoping that the survey comes out and says, don't bother. It comes out in some way that they can say, don't bother with remaking Resident Evil 5, which would be the next logical step, or gives them an excuse to remake Resident Evil 1 again. Like, even if they do remake Resident Evil 1 again, then they have to get really desperate and start remaking like Code Veronica and some of the spin-off games to avoid Resident Evil 5. And it's almost certainly better for them to just pull off the bandage and remake something called Resident Evil 5 that is a completely different story, which they've already established that they can get away with that quite well, since they fairly drastically changed what Resident Evil 4 was. So just go in that same direction, tell a fairly different story around Resident Evil 5, then do the exact same thing even to a more extreme with Resident Evil 6, and then you're back to Resident Evil 7. At any point you could do one, at any point you could do any of the spin-off games, Resident Evil 0, Code Veronica. In doing the survey, they still are backing themselves into the corner of having to focus around remakes. And honestly, they can make 4 or 5 more remakes, and that's about it. After that point, they're going to have to make new games, or they're going to have to decide to well, what else could they do? There's a lot of cards to have to banish. Why am I banishing so many cards? Here's an interesting story in that Sony's CEO warns that technical issues still remain for cloud gaming, but Yoshida says the corporation wants to take on those challenges, which is an odd thing to say when you just announced a streaming service. I'm running out of time. Taking too long, and I'm not having anything to say. I was watching the DF Retro podcast, and one of the guys brought up the exact same question I had around the whole Dolphin emulator, and the encryption key being built into the Dolphin emulator's code. As to, he was questioning, same as I am, whether a encryption key can really be considered copyrightable or proprietary or anything. Sadly, you might have some protections under some kind of crazy state secrets acts or something that is extra. One of the things I want to do with my macro is have the front page of Steam stay up. Like, I've always had it opening, certainly, but I think it is worthwhile for my own information, if for nobody else's, to generally know if there's a sale going on or if there's anything special. Like anything special happening on Steam in general. So that gets to Zeus. I didn't realize that guy could get to Zeus, but okay. So I guess you learn every day. Then we've got the interstitial images, which aren't much, admittedly, but they help make a little break. And then I really don't have a reason to keep these pages open so much. I'm just activating this trap, which probably just do nothing. I can only do this once. Because it is Monday on a light weekend, I imagine we won't have a ton of news. And because my macro's broken, I have a lot of pages here that I think we've probably already talked about, such as Diablo's post-launch update being detailed by Video Games Chronicle. Microsoft has said the part out loud that I think everybody was assuming, in that they could just withdraw Activision from the UK to counter the acquisition block. It's been claimed. Microsoft's president is reportedly set to meet with the government ministers next week. That does potentially narrow it down to just Activision being the only company that has any business dealings in. Oh, come on. I'm gonna run out of time here. Yeah, I don't think I can actually play here fast enough. And this is where it really shows that the timer is broken in this game. I have like 10 seconds now to just cancel everything, no matter what happens. And it'll give me like 60 extra seconds. Oh man, are we gonna really do anything here, or are we doomed to just run out of time? It would take forever to lose. So I find that would be annoying too. Alright. Just see if this works. I mean, it did work. But only to the extent of doing enough damage here. Getting close. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I suppose the weirdness here, if I'm assuming this correctly, that Microsoft may pull Activision out of doing business in the UK market, is Microsoft effectively saying, well, we think that the UK government is going to play fair, and if we just play this game, then the UK government won't persecute us any further. Now, governments really should not play fair, and it shouldn't just be a game as far as everything goes. If Microsoft pulled out of the UK market, Activision out of the UK market, then the UK should probably then ban or fine everything Microsoft related, Windows in particular, and Office. But they could also fine any service that's just using Microsoft Azure servers, which would be a pretty big amount of companies in the UK too. Or they could just ban Microsoft in general from not doing any business in the UK. Of course, then you have the staring contest as it is, because if Microsoft really was banned, or Microsoft voluntarily pulled Windows and Office off the shelves and just not allowing any of that to actually happen in the UK market, then that would be pretty devastating to everybody involved. Everybody in the UK in particular. So it really is just like a going nuclear option. Right. But they are saying it out loud, so at the very least we do know that they are working their way towards going nuclear. Man, I really am losing steam today. And I don't know how much I can really blame that on being sick even. I have been just getting worse and worse about losing steam and going quiet. Video Games Chronicle here says Tears of the Kingdom is now the 3rd best-selling box Zelda game ever in the UK. Beating out, I assume. Let's see. Breath of the Wild and Twilight Princess for the GameCube and Wii. So Twilight Princess selling very well for both consoles, and thus being considered their own separate thing. Why can I not activate that ability? I should be able to activate this ability. I can't do anything. That's just in the turn. Let's see. Street Fighter 6 has hit 1 million players in its first 3 days. Somebody's already at 100 level cap. The Crew Motorfest gameplay is leaking ahead of the Ubisoft Forward reveal. And then more than 10 million sales at Dead Cells. Square Enix says you don't need to play Final Fantasy VII Remake before Rebirth. The company recently said it's working on nailing down a release date for part 2 of the trilogy. Yep. So we're having a company-wide statements basically saying that all Final Fantasy games that they're going to release in the near future are going to not require you to play previous Final Fantasy games, which at a certain level may significantly reduce the desire of a lot of people to play the Final Fantasy games in the first place. Even though Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 really didn't, storyline-wise, require you to play the previous games, I think there was a general assumed familiarity with the type of games that you should have and that you should play those games when those games were very popular. By the time you got up to 8, 9, and 10, that's probably less of an important thing. Alright, let's look at the Gamatsu articles now. Last Hero of Nostalgia is coming to the PS5, PS4, and PS Switch on June 20th. Alongside the DLC Rise of Evil. Now, I did find out that I have a plugin that will change text on a web page, so I can rephrase, rewrite this, but I would have to do it for every single instance. So in this case, I would change this to PS4, PS5, PS4/5 is really the only optimization I can do there to save myself a little bit of breath. But I will write up that substitution for this page, so I'm going to leave that page open. PlayStation Plus's monthly games lineup for June has been announced. I think we've already talked about these. Is this guy gonna let me play, or is he just playing the whole time? No, I should probably just end my turn and just let him win. Either that or surrender or let time run out. Because the last thing I really can do is just banish all these. I have like one card left. I don't know why you can activate the ability twice. I need something that could do piercing damage. Alright, let's just do this. Take this, attack here. That should help him. Alright, well. Then that leaves me with nothing to do, so end the turn. He's just gonna wait till I run out of cards in 2 turns. A romance visual novel, Girls Frantic Clan, is coming to the PS4 and Switch on September 28th in Japan. It was first released in PC on December 2022. This is an example of an article where there is really no way for me to make a shorter phrase than saying PS4 and Switch. The question, I guess, would be, is this visual novel on Steam? It does not seem like it was. Seems like it was launched on a different storefront. Flow Love is coming to the Switch on September 28th in Japan. It was previously planned for the PS4, PS Vita, and PC. Now, the way this system works as far as replacing words is it's not really website specific. So if anybody uses PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, then that phrase will just get censored, rewritten in a different way. It's not censorship, or it's just rewriting it to make it shorter. Yeah. It doesn't seem to me like I'm going to destroy 3 more cards. And I'll do the Duel live later. So yeah. Another visual novel coming to the Switch on September 28th in Japan. Escape Academy's DLC Escape from the Past launches July 19th. Go ahead and turn on the blur. Make sure that worked. Yep. Samurai Showdown rollback netcode update delayed to the late summer. Skatebird now available for the PS5 and PS4. Previously available on Xbox One, Switch, PC, and Luna. This is another page to rewrite. Slavic Punk Old Timer launches June 28th. This one is a Steam exclusive. It is already on my fall list though, so I don't think I need to make another YouTube short around it. Bushido Road Games presentation set for July 27th. Front Mission's first remake is coming to PS4, 5, Xbox One and Series, and PC on June 30th. So this is the first example of me rewriting it. Is it rewritten perfectly? Probably not, but it's better, certainly, to just say PS4, 5, Xbox One Series. It starts with the older generation consoles first, then goes to the newer generations instead of saying PS5, 4, and Xbox Series 1, and then and PC. I could rewrite PC to Steam, but I wouldn't be 100% accurate there. It also has the Oxford comma here, so it's going to keep that also. A romance visual novel called Trino Line is coming to Switch on September 28th in Japan. This is the 3rd game we've had announced that is exclusively in Japan. There is a Trino Line all ages version, which is to imply that there is a non all ages version either not on Steam, like all rated 18 plus material has been censored. Dev patch link below says censored content. Steam Deck compatibility unsupported. I don't know why you do that. And this is from 2019. Of course, the problem here is you have a game that says it's all ages version. A curator is saying it's been 100% censored. There's not enough mature content here to justify it being tagged with sexual content here. And we know it's the devs that use these tags more than anybody. So there really should be some better way to adjust that, or frankly the sexual content tag should just not exist. Corsair's Battle of the Caribbean has been announced for consoles and PC, due out in 2024. Let's see. You know, I make so many YouTube shorts that something that's going to come out in a generic time frame next year, I really shouldn't get a YouTube short. I should keep my sites shorter. I did look at my RSS feed as far as just how many videos get posted through that before it fills up. You can only have like 15 entries before it cycles off. And I really am just flooding my RSS feed in particular, if not my YouTube channel in general, with YouTube shorts. We'd already talked about this Higurashi When They Cry Origin being announced. And Grand Blue Fantasy we talked about. And I think we talked about the Famitsu sales. You can check it out on Gamatsu.com if you're interested. And then Desolation we talked about. And that scarf is it being once again shifted. This time not using the comma. So the comma is not part of the rewriting. It's just there if it was there originally or not. PS4 and 5 and Xbox One and Series is way easier than what I was saying before. MetaQuest 3. Forever Skies launches early access on PC for June 22nd. Spider-Man 2's map is roughly twice the size. All of this is old news, though, so we can skip through a significant amount of this. This is just my macro catching up because it hadn't run correctly for a couple of days. Which, yeah, if the macro doesn't run for a couple days, you end up with a lot of extra stuff. And that is something to be aware of, and in part why I need to stream, even if I'm not feeling particularly 100%. White Album Memories Like Falling Snow coming to PC in Q3 of 2023. Is this one we've seen? I don't know if there's really... I guess we have seen it. It's on the fall list. I don't know if there's a great reason to have like a K-pop or a J-pop idol, I guess, theme in a visual novel, because you're just not going to have any actual singing or dancing going on, which would be the two main things you'd want to see around J-pop. A Boss Rush co-op online action game Trinity S is coming to the PS5 and PS4 this fall. That's one that needs a rewrite. King of Fighters 13 Global Match PS4 open beta test is set for June 5th to June 11th. Is Zytra's system trailer is available if you want to check that out. Dungeon Travelers 2 and Dungeon Travelers 2-2 for PC launches June 9th worldwide. I'm not sure that there is a Dungeon Travelers 1, however, releasing on PC. And I'm not sure these are actually coming to Steam. I'm gonna investigate that further later. Let's see. Final Fantasy progressing smoothly and according to plan. Sedesco doing a publishing partnership with Among Giants. Alan Wake 2 behind the scenes introducing Saga Anderson. Goodbye World for the PS4 and PS5, Xbox One and Xbox Series, launching June 30th. Let's see. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth features a wide and multifaceted world with a high degree of freedom, says the director Naoki Hamaguchi. Let's see, this week's Japanese game releases are Diablo 4, Telnet Shooting Collection, and more. I guess that's what this is, Telnet Shooting Collection. I remember when this game was announced because it had this anime girl basically naked and then there's a plane in front of her. The only other physical release this week is MotoGP 23, and then digital releases feel a little light too, and that was true last week too. So it does feel like we're in a bit of a glut or a slump. I'm not sure which one's the right phrase. Right before we get more announcements for new games. A bit of a drought maybe. Operation Wolf returns. First mission VR has been delayed to July 13th. If anybody was looking forward to that game, I don't even recall it being announced. The Valiant for PS5 and Xbox Series launches July 11th. It's currently available for PC, so let's see what it looks like on PC. Apparently not much, considering it's mixed reviewed. Then we talked about Dead Cells, and then we talked about Enshroud Combat gameplay trailer. No, we didn't. But the Enshrouded Combat gameplay trailer is on Format, so if you want to check it out. And then that moves us quickly into GameDeveloper.com. And I guess in general, if I am just trying to burn through all this news, we can do this in 2 hours. Pretty much all these stories we've already talked about. The report that Valve effectively acted in bad faith, in my opinion, by contacting Nintendo and working with Nintendo to send a cease and desist to stop Dolphin Emulator from being published on Steam. We already talked about Blazeball. Summer Games Done Quick raised over $2.2 million for Doctors Without Borders, which I feel like compared to previous years, that is lower than usual. There has been a trend of less and less money as the years go by, but that definitely feels low. And they still very much on their YouTube channel are just flooding their YouTube channel with footage of games that they covered, with very little of them being interesting to watch. They've run out of momentum as far as games that are interesting to watch as far as speedruns go. They basically need to promote the idea of something other than a speedrun. I don't know if that would be a glitch run or a hack run or something like that. A full playthrough, 100% playthroughs, things like that. Different ways to play it. I know that phrase Nuzlocke has become very popular in Pokemon, where you add extra difficulty by only playing with the first Pokemon you catch. And that's just a self-imposed rule for the most part, so they could try and do something like that, although that just makes the game harder. They were on the right path with the tools assisted speedruns, but the one task bot, it can only do so many presentations. Moving on, we already talked about that. So now we're doing the follow list cleanup, which may contain adult content. I probably should say that out loud. So we have this game, which is not on the follow list. I got jumped around there somehow. Yeah. This should be on the follow list. God of Rock. Which is just a game I definitely kind of wanted to like, but unfortunately it's not reaching high enough reviews. Plus it is also a rhythm game, so I really wouldn't have done well if I'd played it or tried to play it. Goat's Tale 2 from November 2022. I think this is probably would have been a no anyways. Is there Goat's Tale 1? Goat's Tale Plus. Goat's Tale 1. Yeah. This is just basically a Jump King clone. Goalnator. Looks like a hockey VR game. It's free. But I'm going to take it off anyways. Even though there's a decent argument to saying yes to this. It is still probably better to have kids or adults practice their goalie in hockey using more traditional methods, even if that is a lot more expensive as far as buying actual sticks in actual uniforms and goalie outfits. That muscle memory you're trying to develop there needs to be something more. Okay, this was updated 40 days ago and has yet to be announced. Should I really have something on my fall list like this? I'll give it some more time, obviously. Okawa, Chapter 1. Do they have a Chapter 2? When did this come out? 2019? Yeah, he has only Chapter 1 since 2019. It does look interesting, and it is rated very positively, but I just don't think I can say yes to something like this. Even though he is not asking a lot, it's just going to be an unfinished story. Glover. Why does this want to keep jumping me around like that? I don't know. I've never seen it do that. So Glover, unfortunately by Pico Interactive, which I think Pico Interactive is one of the companies that's pretty bad about releasing bad remakes. Like, this is definitely a game I played when I was a kid, and I would like to cover it and play it, but there's just no way to justify doing that at the moment. But I will leave it on the fall list to remind myself. Maybe at some point in the future somebody else will remake Glover. Gloria Victis. It's mostly positive, but it's an MMORPG, yeah. So it shouldn't be on the fall list in the first place. Glowy Eyes is very positive, but requires VR, so I'll leave it on the fall list. Glittering Sword. Looks like it might be a Zelda clone. It's mostly positive, but it doesn't have enough relevancy. There aren't 30 reviews. So I have to say no to it also. Glitch Hikers. spaces between. Surreal Journey. Alright, that looks good enough to put on the wish list. Glass Hearts. 2 reviews from October. Looks like it's a gay guy, maybe Chinese game. It's only supports English. Yeah. Yaoi means guy on guy. Gay. So we'll get rid of that. Just because of the fact that it didn't have enough reviews. Now there should have been an interstitial pop up there, but I didn't see it. Because now we're looking at new games that have come out on Steam, which I guess have an increased chance of having adult content on them. Interesting, the button's not working. I've seen that happen before, though. Grotesque Realm. It's a little too dark, screenshot syndrome. In the video it looked kind of good, but the screenshots alone kind of betray it. So I'm going to say no to that. Huh. Oh, middle mouse clicking, wrong place, it seems. World's Hardest Game, 3D Nostalgia, nothing there. And we have our first adult game, The Last Orgasm, which looks to me like it's the idea of a Last of Us clone with 3D CGI characters in sexual positions. I am seeing a wide variety in visual quality, though, and I suspect that the actual visual quality is pretty bad. And to include zombie monsters in the sex scenes is awkward and weird. But that seems exactly what it's doing. Otherwise it looks like it is just a low effort zombie shooter game. Not even really going for the Last of Us idea. Weirdly, it is mostly positive. With 118 reviews, it's at 76%. It's selling for $6.39. It claims to have full English audio, which I doubt, but is possible. Yep. Inherently, anytime you have an adult game that's based around shooting, you get into some fairly weird ideas there as to who are you shooting and why is shooting something that lines up with adult content. Is this Tabletop Warrior a VR game? Yes it is, but I'm gonna leave it on the fall list anyways. Guess I haven't made a YouTube short around any of the new games so far. There really aren't that many. Part of that is because I also started a little bit earlier today instead of what I was doing, which was mostly sleeping till 5 or 6 in the evening and doing really late streams. That being said, I was also getting a decent number of views from those late streams, so shifting around the times may help or it may not. The vast majority of these games are nothing to mention. Again, I suspect that is because we're in a bit of a drought before they start to announce things at the Summer Games Fest. And then we'll have a bunch of hype around games that are announced at the Summer Games Fest, but aren't coming out for months and months and months. And yeah, if I only see one adult game today, I wouldn't be super surprised. Cadence Cuties is another adult game here. It's an interesting bouncing around live 2D models of what I would say is a more natural color, but closer to 2D than normal while still being 3D CGI as far as the girls. They're all seemingly just naked as you're doing a rhythm game in front of them and then bouncing around and being animated. I guess that's where the cadence idea comes from, is that it's a rhythm game. Not a terrible idea. Way better than shooting zombies would be. So Cadence Cuties is $4.49. It says it has Japanese full audio and English interface and subtitles. I wouldn't have leaned towards really saying this was a Japanese looking game. If anything, it looks like it's a Japanese animated game trying to target Westerners. It definitely doesn't have an anime feel to it. It feels much more normal place than that. And at a certain level, there is a point that needs to be mentioned here, in that this really would have been the kind of game you would just have live action video. And we don't see any live action video in a video game as far as adult content. And I assume that is directly because Steam and Valve says no to that. So there is clearly a level of censorship happening there, undeniably, because we would have seen something that was live action if that was the case. Somebody would have tried it. And the first person that would succeed to get like live action video in a video game format with adult content on Steam would also stand out from the crowd quite a bit. I don't mentally get the full thinking there either, other than just maybe Valve thinks that there's some different legalities around live action footage in a video game, or maybe live action footage adult video games just sell a lot better on other storefronts. That might be the case too. There very possibly are some laws that make a difference there. I'm not sure I would fully agree with those laws, though. If anything, it seems more natural to have live action people than it does to have cartoon people. Not that I'm gonna kink shame anybody for what they prefer, whether it's 2D or 3D, to use a phrase. In all fairness, though, even non-adult games with full motion video and live action footage are fairly rare. We haven't seen maybe one or two a year worth mentioning. Am I desperately looking for a YouTube short by saying let's make a YouTube short around this? I think I am getting too desperate, yeah. I mean, it's perfectly fine if we just have 2 or 3 games worth making YouTube shorts on. Like, my YouTube shorts are so far ahead anyways. I'm gonna say yes to this. Well, this is a companion app, so it's not even a game. So you'd have to play Frosthaven in the real world for that to make sense. Tiny Thor. He looks interesting. But we do have like 5 more games to look at. The doll looks interesting. Llama Clicker does not look interesting. Secrets of the Witch House. I'm gonna give this a chance. Make a short on it, see how people are interested in that. And then apparently Elder Scrolls Online Necrom is new. So I should make a YouTube short around that. And then we have a visual novel here. Looks like it's all guys. And it looks like it's Japanese only. But even at that, all guys is probably an interesting diversion from the norm. Repella Fella. Give that a chance. Then we won't give that a chance. So I'm missing like one interstitial article, and that's it. And by not really having a lot to say and just being not at 100%, I think I just burned through everything fairly quickly. I also think I got really lucky and there just wasn't that much news to talk about today. So we're ending very early, which is good for me. That's going to be it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's some links in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.